Today, for day number 6, I'm going to talk to you about an Italian slasher flick called The House by the Cemetery, or House by Cemetery. Now, this film was put out on August 14th, 1981. Now, the interesting thing about this film was it wasn't quite at all that great. It wasn't amazing, but it was actually pretty entertaining to watch. Not all the way through, because there were points where it was just kind of fucking boring it was just boring. It was like typical blah blah blah, let's wait and get to the good stuff kind of thing. Which you typically got this from the original Friday the 13th and all that too, where it was kind of boring parts, but then they got really interesting parts, and the plot thickened, and it got a little bit more interesting. It pretty much, I'd say, is be up on that caliber as the first Friday the 13th, before the actual slasher bits in each part of the film. Now, The House by Cemetery is actually directed by an Italian director named Lucio Fulci. And basically the plot is this. In New York City, Bob and his parents, Norman and Lucy Boyle, are pretty much getting ready to move. Which are getting ready to move to a place up in New England, in New Woodbury. Now, pretty much next to Boston. So now, basically what happens here is Bob is warned about this evil supernatural occurrence happening in this house they're going to, which was called the House of Feudstein, basically. And basically what happened was there was some crazy shit happening there, blah blah blah. So basically what happens is Norman's ex-colleague, Mr. Peterson, who murdered his mistress before committing suicide, was the previous owner. Now that's all you're told entirely throughout the entire film for a little while. So basically, Norman's trying to figure out what occurred in this house, at the same time continue on the research and make an extra $5,000 on his account. Because back in the day, $5,000 is quite a bit of money, especially for a family that's living in an apartment, which is in this film. So, as the film goes through, there were some interesting characters along the way, but then it sort of felt like, that typical boring drag. Kind of like how I said with the Friday the 13th is pretty much the same element, where you just got those boring parts and you get the interesting parts and then it gets boring again. Which it doesn't quite drag you along as you'd hope for. But there is cool, spooky parts which even I was a little bit intense with, which was just sort of like I was watching it, interested in see what the hell this noise was coming from and what all this other shit is. So the game, if this was a game, I'd probably be wanting to play it. Now, as a movie in a whole, though, it's a passable movie to watch. I mean, it's definitely something if you want to watch elements such as The Shining, and I wouldn't say Poltergeist as much, but more the lines of being The Shining and Frankenstein and, stuff like that, this would be definitely up your alley. Because it has elements of that, it has elements of the Amityville horror. I mean, the director's trying to go with these three elements, which were very popular at that time, and just sort of going with it. Because in the 70s, you had a lot of films that were sort of similar to Frankenstein and all this, and they were just practically, trying to borrow off of the Universal Studio very popular films, iconic films, such as Dracula and all that. But this film sort of branched out in its own, but you can obviously feel the vibe of The Shining, and it just sort of keeps you in thinking a little bit, too, while you're watching it. Like, I was thinking, is the father going to be the guy? Is the chick going to be the killer? Like, who's going to be this killer here? What's going on? Is the father going to go crazy and start killing everybody? This is what all I thought the entire film. It kept me thinking. It was a good thing, because if you're not thinking, you're just blindly watching a film, it doesn't mean it's going to be that entertaining to watch. So, in closing, this was generally a good film. I mean, it wasn't great, it wasn't amazing, it was entertaining. Some of the gore elements are great. They're really over the top, they kind of expanded them a little bit, so you get this really detailed killing. It's just like, wow, what the fuck? You expect this quick little slice of the throat or something and they just move on, but no, they just keep on going. They want to make sure you see it, So, again, if you are interested in slasher films, you're interested in horror films, give this Italian slasher horror film a chance, because it's actually pretty good. Find it on DVD, pirate it, whatever you can do. Watch it. It's actually pretty damn good. But that's my opinion for today. House by the Cemetery, or an Italian name I cannot read or pronounce because I suck. But anyway, take it easy, touch my nipples, see you later.